Why don't we go ahead and get started? So welcome. You are here. This is a information session for University of Georgia's Graduate Certificate in Complexity Leadership. So we're glad you're here. My name is Dr. Sims, and I'm going to be walking you through the certificate today. So I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and Melvin, if you wouldn't mind, if you could share a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in the certificate. Again, welcome, Melvin. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about yourself. If you're more comfortable putting it in chat, that's fine too. All right. Well, I don't know if you're on break or you're maybe in class, so we'll keep going. But feel free to break in, and we have several individuals who indicated that they may join us, so we'll keep going. So welcome again, and if you get a chance, please tell us a little bit about yourself. All right, so I'm going to go back and share. All right. Discernment as well as timely action. Our vision for this certificate is really to inspire leaders to approach wicked problems that we all experience now with a complexity and a adaptive mindset. The mission of this certificate is to operationalize the leadership practices of learners so that you are able to enact what? Strategic change and innovation within your organizations, your communities, as well as the world. What we're doing here is we want to reframe leadership through a complexity lens. So, what do we mean by that? Leadership is viewed as more than a role, more than a position, more than a set of traits or capabilities, capacities that one person might exhibit or exist within. We're really looking at both the parts and the whole matter in the context of complexity. So we really use it to describe a way of looking at the world as interconnected, always evolving, in motion relations between humans and more than human sort of interactions in a multi-contextual reality. That may sound like a lot, but it really is looking at the world as a set of interrelated relationships that we need to manage. And we also use an adaptive lens. So, what do we mean by that? So, coupled with complexity, we have adaptive leadership. And adaptive leadership is really taught to expand the capacity of leaders as they cultivate in themselves, as well as those around themselves, the context that serve to enable leadership by enabling the conditions that effectively support and sustain adaptive space. So what is an adaptive space? An adaptive space is a space of possibility where responsibility grows and takes shape just in time. So through this certificate on complexity and adaptive leadership, program participants will develop the leadership capacities they need to address wicked problems. And so we talk about what's an adaptive problem versus a different type of problem and how to respond to that. So who will benefit from these experiences? We have existing students, but we're also looking for people who really just want to focus on this credential, this certificate. And so this program is appropriate for those who face complex and adaptive challenges in their organizations, professionals who are working in or aspiring toward leadership or managerial roles, high potentials, mid to upper level managers, and/or senior leaders, alumni of UGA, LLOD, or other programs. So you need to have a baccalaureate, a bachelor's degree. A lot of times we get people who want to refresh their credentials, so you may already have a graduate degree. All of these individuals are invited to apply. So before I get into the particulars, I see that we had Lindsay join us. So Lindsay, welcome. And we'll give you some time at the end to share a little bit about yourself and give you an opportunity to answer questions. So welcome. In terms of the curriculum, so this is one of the revised things that we've done. So we really wanted to provide people with an opportunity to complete the course within a calendar year. So you could start the program in the fall of 2026 and graduate and complete the program in the summer of 2027. So there are now just 5 3-hour courses. Yes, you do get credit for these courses. And it's a little different format. So 2 of the courses are going to be hybrid. So they're going to be in person at Gwinnett. And then the rest would be virtual, but they would be virtual courses in a synchronous session. So via Zoom, just like what we're doing here. So the fall, you would take 2 courses. The other unique thing is that the courses are now delivered in a split semester sequence, so 1 course at a time, as opposed to the traditional way of delivering courses, which would be you would take 2 courses simultaneously. So now you're taking 1 course at a time. So courses 1 and 5 combine face-to-face instruction at the Gwinnett campus with as well as online meetings to supplement it. And courses 2, 3, and 4 are taught synchronous in online meetings. You can see here that the first course provides you with foundations. So course 1, 8230, leadership and learning, leadership and org development. That would be at the Gwinnett campus in the fall. You would have in-person sessions there. And then the second session, so after the first half of the semester, the second half, you would start 8205, leading from within, developing personal and interpersonal leadership capacity. That would be taught virtually. In synchronous classes via Zoom or another video conference. Then in the spring, you would take 8250, complexity leadership. That includes complexity leadership and adaptive leadership. Again, you would take these one at a time. So you would start in January with 1 course, and then you would take the second course in March, which would be intercultural workplace leadership. So you would learn about yourself and how to navigate intercultural workspaces. And then you would conclude the program in the summer of 2027. Again, that would be a session, and you would do a practicum. And so that would give you an opportunity to apply what you've learned in complexity leadership. So 5 courses, 3 semesters. The first and the fifth course would be in Gwinnett, so it would be synchronous in person in Gwinnett. The rest would be synchronous via video conferencing tool that would be virtual. So what are the requirements? You need to have a graduate degree or be currently enrolled. If you have a graduate degree, you need to have a minimum GPA of 3.0. Approval of major professors for current students, transcripts, resume, and statement of purpose for the graduate school application. We are encouraging applications for the fall, so we can have a class to get kicked off. So that's what the approach is. Next steps, if you're interested, new students would apply through the UGA Graduate School, and we can put that information in the chat. You would use the degree code certification 2COLGW, and you would go to the graduate school, you would click the Apply Now button, and you would start. So hopefully this answers your questions. I will go ahead and also put this in the chat so you can act on that information. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and see what questions you may have. Hi, Lindsay, welcome.
Hi, I have a few questions.
Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I work at Georgia Tech. I'm Associate Director of Organizational Design and Effectiveness.
Hmm,
So
okay,
yeah, I work internally within Georgia Tech with our executive leaders on aligning strategy in their org, all the pieces of it. So dealing with a lot of complexity all day long. And I was interested when I saw this, both for myself to grow as a leader, as you talked about, but also I think a lot of applicability in my day-to-day work with my internal clients as well.
excellent. So I have been in your role, so I definitely can relate to that. And so let us know. Uh, so I take it, given your role, you have background in the field. And so, yeah, I think being able to help them better navigate and pinpoint, it would definitely give you tools to do that.
Yeah. And then help me as well, which is great.
Exactly, exactly. It's always helpful to have a framework that you can use to help you address issues that you're being tasked with. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, my undergrad is not related at all. My undergrad was fashion, and then
Oh,
I pivoted
wonderful.
into this world a little over 10 years ago. Earned my MBA from Georgia Tech and was at Turner Warner Media for several years in change management, org development, org design. And then came to Georgia Tech in 2020 in an org design role that wasn't really org design. It was a process oversight of reporting changes,
Okay.
but we have developed now a centers of expertise in org design and positioned it more as a strategic enabler.
Okay.
Um, so some of these classes probably could have been very helpful to me as we went through that. I learned the School of Hard Knocks.
Okay. Well, I've definitely done a lot with process improvement over time, and a lot of mapping, process mapping. I've been in Prior to becoming a professor, I was in human resources and human resource development for over 20 years, Fortune 100 consulting. Yes, trying to manage and map change. So the nice thing about this is it really is focused primarily on leadership. You'll get a foundation on leadership, different theories, and then we'll go into, you'll explore who you are as a leader. So that's the leading from within class. You'll really focus on what does it mean to manage leaders around complexity as well as adaptive. So what does it mean to be an adaptive leader? What's an adaptive versus a technical challenge? How do you work with people to manage that level of complexity? And how do you create the space so that the group can solve the problems? How do you imagine or reimagine how one might approach it? And then the intercultural piece, really, what is your intercultural development style? How do you deal with intercultural conflict? What are some of the cases? How might you approach that? And then the practicum is sort of pulling this all together and saying, okay, how can I apply this in my real world circumstance? So that's really the wrap up piece. So 4 courses, 1 practicum, 3 semesters, pretty much done.
I think this, has the ability to help me as well, just with the internal consulting, like helping, like you were just saying, how you bring people together and having those conversations. Sometimes, even very high up leaders, they just want me to have the answer for them, but that's not helpful for me or for them. So I think it will help me build some of those muscles. And I did a workshop probably 2 years ago around organizational network analysis
Mm-hmm.
and at an org design conference. And we talked a lot about how there's complication and then there's complexity,
Mm-hmm.
and the two are not always the same. And many times people look at something that's complicated, think that's complex, or vice versa. And so that got me really thinking about what's truly complex versus what's not, and somehow led me to this.
Oh, good. And
Working.
very much so. And we do make those distinctions in terms of things can be complicated, but as we say, if there is a technical solution that can address it, it's not complexity.
Mhm.
So it is the adaption, the ability to learn. It's when circumstances require adaptive capacity and learning, that's when complexity is being
Yeah.
there. And that's when you need to come up with new ways of approaching it to look at it. Have worked on sort of that network mapping and how that can contribute to how people are addressing and solving problems. So I do think that you could find this useful as a tool. What I have found in teaching people about leadership and leadership theory is it helps give people names and tools for things that they may not have used before.
And that's, I think, a big difference too between like being at Turner Warner Media versus here is they didn't want to know the name, or they didn't want to, they like, oh, we can't just be put in a framework. But here it's very helpful to, as you probably know, being UGA, right? To say like, oh, there's documented research and this is the framework and these are the words. Um, that
Exactly.
really helps here. So
Exactly.
having more of that.
Yeah, when you get academics involved, yeah, they want the theory, they want to know there's research behind it, that it's going to be effective, efficacious, where might it have been used before, so we can talk through a lot of that.
I was interested, I mean, speaking just from the Georgia Tech, uh, being a Georgia Tech employee, to confirm, and if you don't know, I can ask internally if this is TAP strap eligible.
Yes, it would be.
Okay, I thought so. Unfortunately, some of our graduate ones aren't because they're not a graduate certificate. Um, just it's the way they built them.
Okay.
Um, which is
So there are 3 credit courses. I'm not going to talk about other programs, but all of our courses are master's at doctoral level. They're 3 credit hours. We have lots of students uh, from lots of employees in the UGA systems in our classes.
awesome.
So I don't think that that would be an issue. And you don't have to be, you have to be accepted by the grad school, but you don't have to be enrolled in a master's, in a formal degree program. You can be enrolled just in the certificate. And the fact that you have a baccalaureate and an MBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I did decide in the future to consider one of the doctorates at UGA, would any of these credits like apply to that?
I can't speak for other programs, but if you were, so we have both an EDD and a PhD. So yes, these courses would be applicable. But what I'd have to figure out specifically would be how many of them.
Yeah.
So that would be the issue. So would they be able to transfer over? Yes. Would they count? That would be we'd have to look at that. I'm sure that people come and they may have a master's degree and they may have a certain number of credits and they get accepted, but sometimes with programs, there's a certain number of credit hours that you have to take in the program,
Yeah.
regardless of the rest. So that would be what we'd have to look at.
A coworker was like, "Oh, you should ask because I keep going back and forth, but this seemed to meet my needs more right now." And then for the Gwinnett classes, are those during the week or weekend?
So the way we've conceptualized them, it would be a Tuesday, Wednesday format. So we're thinking that it would be from 2 to 6 on a Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're trying not to have weekend courses. So people have said they want their weekends.
Yeah. I think those are all the questions that I have.
Okay.
You did mention that it's kind of restarting in the fall. Do you
Yeah.
have to have a certain number of students to do the program or?
We have our goal is to have about well, uh, we're reconceptualizing it. So yes, but we are trying to have just certificates. We have a lot of students who are both master's students and doctoral students enrolled in our certificate program. And the way that we've
That makes sense.
conceptualized it now is takes them about 6 to 7 semesters to graduate just how the courses fall. So this would be just dedicated for this cohort. So we're trying to get 12 to 15 students.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you stopping by. Feel free to reach out. I'll put my information in the chat if you have further questions. I've also put in the information about the how to apply in chat. So we're glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Making sure I'm saving that outside of the chat so I can refer to it.
Thank you for asking brilliant questions, Lindsay. Very good questions.
Oh, thank you.
And best wishes to you in your role. Very much needed.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay. All right. Well, Melvin, we appreciate you being here. Sorry that we didn't get a chance to connect. Hopefully all's well in your world. I've got my information in chat. Feel free to reach out if you have further questions. And Niche, thank you so much for all your assistance.